Alright, guys, we are live.
Let's get it.
Welcome, everybody. Here's thanks for that resub. Savage, everybody, welcome to the Friday night podcast. As you guys can see, we have Jerry Bear here, and we have
Hello.
Mrs. Wi-Fi.
Hi.
You want to start it, Jerry, since you have that shirt on?
I think Alyssa's actually going to start it.
Okay, Alyssa, you're up.
All right. So tonight's topic is kind of based off of Jerry's shirt, breaking the stigma. A big thing that is talked about, or I guess not really talked about, is men's mental health. So I wanted to start with a quote that I got from an interview. For a man, he was talking to a woman who does studies, and she, 4 years in her career, had not studied men. She'd only studied women, children, everyone but men. So he'd asked her why. She was kind of stumped. So his response to her not really knowing how to answer, he said, "You need to start studying men because these women that you just signed your books and all your research for, they'd rather me die on top of my white horse than watch me fall down. When we reach out and be vulnerable, we get the shit beat out of us." So it's like it's a well-known thing that even researchers now study men or study women, study children, but they kind of forget about men when they're studying about mental health. So we don't want to forget and downplay mental health of everybody. So we want to bring up men's mental health and the big stigma that we do see all over TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all the social media out there, that men's mental health does get looked over quite often. Before I jump into some of the statistics, we'll open it up for Jerry and Ryan to kind of put their input or different ideas or different things that they've experienced in their life. According to NIH, suicide is a leading cause of death in the US. So keep in mind a lot of the statistics that I am going to state for men or males is suicide based. So I'm going to give definitions based off of suicide, suicide attempts, and suicide ideations. Suicide is... Oh, sorry, Ryan.
Oh, go ahead.
Suicide is defined as death caused by self-directed injuries with the behavior, and death is like the intended result. Suicide attempt is a non-fatal, self-directed, potentially injurious behavior with intended to die as a result of the behavior. Keep in mind, an attempt doesn't have to result in an injury. And then suicidal ideation refers to thinking about, considering, or planning suicide. So now we're going to jump into some of the statistics. And these are all male-based. So according to the CDC...
Yeah, but I was gonna say, make sure we credit the sources.
All of these are from the CDC. Age groups with the highest suicide rate, which when I was doing this kind of stuck out to me a little bit. So I listed 3 age groups. The highest age group is 85 years or plus. The next age group would be 75 years to 84 years old. And then it jumps down to the third highest group is 25 to 34. A next statistic I just wanted to put out there before I start talking about the percentages and stuff. On average, there are 132 suicides per day in the US.
Per day.
Per day.
That's every day.
So before we move on too much into more statistics, let's talk about these age ranges. The 85 plus, I can understand that because that's sometimes that's people losing their wives, they've lost a child, they've lost all their children, or their children have moved on, they're in a nursing home, something. I can understand it because they've lived their life. They're ready to go. They're ready to move on and be with their loved ones that they've already lost. And I would say the same for the 75 to 84. And I bet if we really dug into it, we'd find some that have medical issues, whether it be cancer or just maybe a hip and a knee after a hip and a knee, or your shoulder or something just keeps it just reoccurring, and they just don't want to deal with it anymore. But then, yeah, the 25 to 34, that's where me in that age range, I didn't have anyone to talk to about it because I felt like I was going to get looked down on. Felt like there's nowhere to turn. Obviously, I think that this stuff hit harder with COVID because nobody could do anything. Nobody could go see people. Couldn't get out of the house and just go to dinner. Wasn't that simple anymore. So I think COVID has a lot to do with, some, because these numbers are mostly from 2021, right, Alyssa?
Correct, yeah.
So, I mean, we were just getting out of COVID at that point. And I would like to see, maybe I'll do some research on the 2020 and 2022 numbers when they become available. But yeah, like the and even 35 to 44 is right below the 25 to 34, and as far as numbers go. So, I've lost some friends to suicide, and Alyssa, and we talked about this on Tuesday about one of our good friends. We didn't know anything was bothering him, and we talked to him every day, and that's where this stuck out to me, that I wanted to bring this up and so we could talk about it, because we didn't know. We talked to him every day.
Every day.
Or almost every day. One of us talked to him every day. Out of me, Ben, or Ryan. Out of the group, our little group. So, think that this needs to be... the thing is about this Break the Stigma is people know that it's happening and they still ignore it. Because men, like myself, are scared to open up to people because then we're a pussy.
We're babies. We're supposed to be the strong ones. We're supposed to be the ones that carry the load. We're supposed to be the ones that just weather the storm and keep pushing forward. And everybody expects us to be okay when really it's our right to not be okay. Mm-hmm. And that's something that a lot of people need to understand more, is that if you're not okay, reach out. And it's not, everybody's like, oh, well, I don't want to bother nobody else. You're not bothering other people. You know what's going to bother them? If you're not there.
Yep. And go ahead, Ryan.
And if you choose to think that you're being somebody's burden, it's going to be more of a burden to watch everybody mourn not having you if you make that decision to take your own life. And it's never easy. It might be easy on that person because they don't have to deal with the daily struggles anymore, but the people that it affects around them is even more than just themselves, and it just sucks.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys know who Paddy Pimblea is. He fights in UFC. I'm gonna paraphrase, but he lost a friend, and a week later he had a fight, and he won the fight. He's getting interviewed, and he said he would have rather had that guy cry on his shoulder than to have to carry his casket.
1,000%.
Because he could have been there for him to cry on his shoulder, but he never knew.
Right.
So before I get into the stats again, kind of building off this and referring back to the quote at the beginning, I remember the first time that Tyler broke down and cried to me. He kept trying to hide, and he didn't know what to do, and I kind of sat there and was like, you can let it out. I'm not gonna... He was expecting me to kind of walk out because he wasn't being that tough guy, or he wasn't carrying all the load, and I was willing to like share it. He even said a lot of times where he felt like a burden on me. And it wasn't the case. We could share the load, we can share the burden. It was more of a, to me, it was a partnership. We're in this together, like you're saying. I'd rather wipe his tears and hear what was going on. So like Jerry, you were saying like you didn't know, but we had talked Tuesday about how I knew.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I didn't know the extent, because I can never sit here and say like I understand what Ryan went through when he served overseas. I could never sit here and like say like I truly know.
Right.
So I was always just a listening ear. I was there for him to break down and there to talk about it, but
And I think that's what killed me the most, right? Is I was with him till what, 2:30 in the morning. This is what I do. This is what I do. This is what I do. I'm the one that I want people to come to me. And one of my closest friends held so much in that he didn't want to burden me or feel like he was going to be taking time away from somebody else. Because in all honesty, I will tell you right now, Tyler felt like if he was probably taking my time, I wasn't able to help somebody else. And that's all he ever wanted to do, was help everybody else. It didn't matter about him. He was helping himself by helping other people, but yet he really wasn't helping himself.
yep. And I will say too, like even when I'd sit with him, he would say stuff like, I am taking the energy from you doing things you want to do, like hike or whatever it may be. He was like, you sitting here listening to me is taking away from like the sunshine and you being outside. And no matter how much you told him, like that doesn't matter in this moment.
Right.
Like, I mean, I guess, yeah, it mattered to him that I was sitting there listening and not doing like things that I loved and cared
It was
about.
never about him.
Yeah.
But that's where the break the stigma comes, because allowing us to be able to break down. And I could bring my wife in here right now. She's held me cry. Like, I broke down, and I didn't do that for the first probably 5 to 6 years of our relationship, right? Because she puts on a different persona. That woman could carry the world on her shoulders, but yet she's finally starting to open up, and the same thing is like we're kind of picking each other up, right? And it's huge because it gives us that break from our own minds. And it just, people don't realize how much just talking about it means a lot.
Yep.
So I guess, yeah, when it comes to that, don't be afraid. I mean, lean on your people. And that goes both ways, men and women, but especially men. Like I said, I know the first time that Tyler broke down, I think he was waiting for me to run out the door, and I sat there and I heard some of his stories when he was overseas, and he was still looking at me like a deer in headlights and was like, you're not gonna just pack your bags and go? And I was like, no. Like,
Yeah, right.
You can tell me more, you can stop, like what do you need from me in this situation?
In his mind, he was like, oh man, she married a pussy. What a pansy I am. She's gonna leave me because of this. In all honesty.
And then in my head, I was thinking like he's looking at me like I'm crazy because I'm not running for the door.
Yeah, right. But really, you were building a strength in him, you know, by allowing him to be able to talk.
And I don't want to rush through this. So are we good to go to the statistics? Or?
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good to move on.
Okay. So the statistics for males in 2021, suicide rates among males were approximately 4 times higher than females. With that, males make up 50% of our populations, but they nearly made up 80% of the suicides within the U.S.
Can we hear them numbers one more again?
So among males, the suicide rates were 4 times higher than females. And then within the population, males make up 40% of the population in the U.S. Within that, They said that there's 132 suicides per day. Males make up 80% of those.
Yep.
Let that sink in, guys. This is why we're having the conversation. These numbers are serious, right?
Yep.
They're high. And it's not just a one-sided thing. It's both sides of the ball here but most people don't know that the guys are the males, shall say, the males are so high.
Yeah,
And
so
it comes back to just, I'm going to say it a lot, probably break the stigma of having someone to talk to, whether it be your spouse, your best friend, your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, one of us, anybody. I mean, there's hotlines you can call even. Just I
And
can't stress it enough.
I talked to Alyssa a little bit about it, or a little bit ago. I met an amazing person this last week at work that we come to find out shared a lot of like this similar things that are going on mentally, right? And if we were never to open up or talk about it, we would have never known. You just never know the people that are in your daily life that you could meet if you just hide behind that shell all the time. And I'm not saying go out there and talk to everybody, but people are a good judge of characters. People can, you pick up on what people are putting down, and it's easy to open up to those that you feel that connection with. And it brought a big like shiny light into the end of the tunnel for me on this one, and it's helped me get out of a very dark spot that I've been in recently. So it's been big for me, and it's something as little as somebody on a job site, right?
Yep.
Never met him before this week.
It's awesome.
alright, so that's all. I left out a lot of the other details because it was kind of like what the highest thing is that people use. I don't think we need to get into that. I wanted to really stick to these facts right here of breaking the stigma for men. Mental health for everyone's important, but these facts right here kind of do call that there is a need to bring attention to mental health within the male population, of bringing it forth, referring back to that quote, you don't have to stay on that white horse for everybody. You can come down and talk about it and be there and have people to lean on. Or if you want to stay on your white horse, maybe we can all come up with our white horses and help you. It is a big thing and it's very serious. We want to see these numbers coming down in all populations, but right now the male population is definitely the ones that are sticking out.
Yep.
And is there a breakdown of profession in any of this?
No.
No, not on the. I mean, I could tell you because I've done research on it. The top three are military, law enforcement, and then construction.
Makes sense.
It does. You got some of the most physically and mentally draining jobs there is in the world right there. There's I think another one. I think it's your first line, like your first responders is like technically number 2, right? You got your EMTs, your policemen, and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah, law enforcement is kind of, they're paired together, so
right.
The kind of blue lives type deal go
Right.
together.
So your first responders, and then there's other ones out there that this is a while ago. I haven't looked into any of the statistics, but professionally, like your profession has a lot to do with your mental, right? And a lot of people aren't happy sometimes in their job. So I will say this, guys, I know that sometimes you might not make the most money, or you might not be able to do all them words are hard. Luxury. I'm done with that word. But all these amazing things, right? With money, but choosing your happiness over that extra 30,000 a year, you'd be surprised what the difference is, right? It's crazy. Like we got Alex comes in, says he loves his job. That's perfect. When you love what you do, it makes it that much easier to get up every day to go do it.
Yep.
And it takes that one less stressful thing off your mental, rather than be like, oh man, I don't want to go in there again. Like, man, I really hate my job. But like when you get up and you have a positive attitude, that sets your mindset for the whole day. Like, the smallest thing can throw you off, but if you think positive, or 3 positive thoughts a day, I will stress this every time I talk about it. 3 positive thoughts every time you get up in the morning will change the whole tone. But if you wake up and do 3 negative, plan to have a shitty day. I ain't gonna lie to you, because you set your day off already being negative. Exactly. You have your day, everybody, and then that's knowing that you have those friends, and we're glad that you choose your friends, right? And you use your friends. But I will say that I know profession has a lot to do with male suicide. And look, you name all 3, like the top 3 of those is all about macho or egotistical. It's a mindset. It's just about, I gotta be a badass. If not, I'm a punk. I'm a punk. I'm a weak ass. I'm soft. You know?
Don't be afraid to stand up for the change within it. I know. I mean, a lot of times it takes, sadly, in the world we live in and kind of the mindset, it takes something bad to make the change. But I know within my company, after losing Tyler, we've made a shift. Mental health does come first within my company. If we say we're having a bad day, they're very quick to say, hey, go home. Like, take care of yourself. I know, like, this week, I wasn't even really having, like, a super bad day, but I had a text tone change. I was getting phone calls from my higher up. Like, do you need a lunch next week? Do we need to check up? Like, do we need to do this? Do we need to do that? And I was like, whoa. Like, I do have a lot going on, but, like, I'm good. Like, but that was all with a just text change. Like, he didn't even talk to me on the phone. But this all started within the last 10 months. It was very much like a shift in, I put my foot down and was like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to, like, have this macho attitude, not going to have all these different things. Like, I just lost somebody to suicide. Mental health is a big thing in my life. If I'm going to work for you, we're going to work together on presenting mental health as a big thing to us and our subs. And it wasn't like, it wasn't a pushback, wasn't a fight. It was a very quick change because I think they could see it in me that I was very serious.
Right.
And she works in a male-dominated field, so she's doing great things.
As a badass herself.
Yeah.
No, she could be your boss.
I wouldn't say that, but maybe.
She could be your boss. Anybody that's listening. Yeah, I mean, I think like construction, which Alyssa you're in, I could see that. I've never done construction personally. I mean, I've helped, friends do stuff around, roofs or siding or whatever, driveways. But I've never done construction as a job. But doing that little bit, I could see that. As far as like, I mean, I was a welder, and that atmosphere probably isn't much different than construction.
Oh.
Very male dominated, building tractors, as you can imagine. And it's definitely, the stigma is there, and you can walk in and you just know that I'm a big burly bastard. I'm not going to talk about my feelings. Okay, well, if you want to, I'm here. But it's that way all around that plant, and it sucks that it's that way. But I mean, the fight has to start somewhere, and hopefully with not just us spreading the word, but everyone.
Right.
Just opening up and knowing that there's no backlash to it. You're not a pussy. You're not a baby. People go through stuff. Trauma happens. You guys talked about trauma last podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just can't stress enough that talk.
And everybody, our DMs are open.
Always
I'll give
open.
my phone numbers out there for a lot of people. I'm always willing to give it out. Or these two would be willing to.
Yep.
Just there is somebody, right? You are not alone. We are here. That is like sitting there at the bottom of the screen for a reason, and it's true. Like,
I mean, we have Twitter. If you want to DM us on Twitter, we all three have access to
Discord.
the Twitter, Discord, Facebook. Our Facebook's !FB. There's ways to get a hold of us, and everything will stay right between us. It's not, we won't go talking to people about it. Will we talk amongst each other because we'll all three see it? Yeah, and we'll try and come up with a solution, but that's it.
See what Alex wrote?
Alex, what's your number? I'll send him.
Hey, he likes feet pick in return, though, Alex.
Ryan, why you gotta ruin everything? Everything. With you, Chad, we need a third.
Yeah. But guys, like, this is what we do, right? You surround yourself with people you can joke and have a good time with and say dumb shit, right? We know the things that we trigger each other. Jerry loves feet pics, so if you guys ever get his phone number, just bury his DMs and everything with him, right? So it's just you gotta find these people that you can surround yourself with and know that at any second, if you're feeling down, they'll pick up the phone and even just shoot them a text message. You know, we checking on each other. We have a group chat, and then I've called and text each one of them individually and just to see how they're doing. And guys,
yep.
It's a lot easier to check in on somebody than everybody makes it out to be.
It really is.
Takes 10 seconds, 30 seconds out of your day. You might not be able to reply right away, or you might not get a reply right away, but just make sure that you reply, and you can.
Mm-hmm.
I can change a whole day, literally.
Don't think you have to have the perfect response to it either.
Mm-mm.
You can literally say, I don't know what to say, but I'm here. But
That's simple as that. And sometimes that's all it is letting somebody know that you're there. And you're never going to always have the answer. It's just, there's going to be things that you're just like,
Yep.
Sure.
Hi.
How was your day besides this? You know?
Yeah.
But it's okay to
And,
not
I
have the
mean-
answer too.
I know, Jerry, you and Brian have both done that to me quite a few times. I mean, even recently. How are you doing besides that? And it's
Yeah, like, let me change this subject right quick because I have no clue what the hell to say right now. Absolutely, Alex. That's all it takes, man. Like, I talk to Alex daily. He calls me, I call him. It's just one of those things we call, see what's going on, and simple as that. This man's coming up here to see me for a day and then driving back home. That's just, I think he just wants my wife to cook for him.
Probably.
Yeah. He's gonna try to cuddle me. He's gonna be big spoon though. Little spoon, does he know? I mean,
I guess before we get too far off tangent, don't let the three professions that we stated, all professions have their
right.
challenges, and you can have stuff within it. I mean, it can even be like stay at home, whatnot. Those are just the top three that we had mentioned.
Them
All
are the
of them.
three that we knew of. We haven't, like I said, we'll get into it to where we look into it a little bit farther and get a little more extensive list. But know that it's all to be taken serious, no matter the profession or whatever. It's mental health, right? Mental health at the end of the day is what we're here to talk about. And it doesn't matter if you're stay-at-home parents. I will give them all 1000% credit, because if you don't want to drop kick your kids, you have amazing kids. I'll tell you that right now. 'Cause my kids just challenge me constantly, but I wouldn't have the world without them. Like, it's just the way they are. But if your kids don't drive you up the wall, how would you know they were there?
Facts.
Office people that work in an office, the stature, everybody's like, oh, you work behind a desk, you get to sit down all day. No, you gotta deal with assholes and people. Wife worked for Lazy Boy, biggest chair company in the world, right? Working in their customer support division. Hated it, because you know what everybody calls to do? Bitch.
Complain. No.
They're calling to complain that their product sucks and that something's wrong. And you know who's got to listen to it? The people on the other end of the line, and try to be professional about it. You know, so of course, the profession is a huge one. I was just stating, did we have an understanding of what the top three were? Male dominated more is what I was trying to get at, is what was raising the numbers in my mind, was what fields are those males working in. And so
Then yes, those are definitely still the same that we listed.
yeah, so
I think other than that, that's all I had, because I wanted to really focus in on those statistics that I said, because they're big numbers.
and you guys see in all my tweets and in my title for majority of every stream is 22 veterans a day take their own lives. So that's something that hits dear to me, right? And suicide is not, it's everywhere, literally everywhere. And it hasn't been this known. And this is where it's a double-edged sword. Social media is good, and social media is the devil, because at the same time we can do what we're doing sitting right here in the comforts of our own home and spread the word, but then you go online and something puts you in that shitty mood, and now you're right back down in that negative mindset, right? Because something you've seen on there, or read, or a video you saw. But it's good and it's bad, but you got to know how to separate the good and the bad, and not let the bad consume you. And I took 5.5 years off Facebook and wish I would have never went back on Marketplace. Marketplace is my kryptonite, because not even, but then I get caught scrolling on Facebook, going up through the news feed, and then you see this missing girl, but yet, hey, guess what we're doing? We're putting this missing girl's face all over Facebook. But then you got the parents that are seeing all the negative comments in there, like, oh, well, she shouldn't dress like this, or she should do this. Like, no, how about we try to find this little girl instead of being so negative? And it's crazy that so many people are negative. And that's what I'm saying. Social media can be good and it can be bad. It's just so many negative people out there on social media that
Keyboard warriors.
People don't understand that one little comment can send somebody, and it was so much easier just to hit the delete key and not even say shit at all. They still had to put their 2 cents in.
To be honest, some people do know that and just don't care. That's the world we live in.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
But yes, break the stigma. You're gonna see that a lot more out of us. I see Jerry's got the shirt on already. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna try to get those going, Jerry, with our logo on them, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we're gonna get some made up. We'll have, hopefully, merch will be coming hopefully soon. So
yeah, we're gonna keep going, moving forward with the merch line. Maybe if we can, if she learns how to do hats and stuff, we'll get some hats going or whatever.
I just gotta get a heat press for her.
Okay, too easy. And we got to check into the legal side of anything of that. So we're gonna make sure that we're not crossing T's. Yeah, we don't
trademark
anything that's trademarked. We don't want to step on any toes there and get in any legal trouble. So.
I mean, This stuff will be fine. The green ribbon, obviously,
Yeah.
for suicide prevention, and then break the stigma is just a hashtag everywhere. So,
Okay.
Brecky, you are correct.
1000%.
What'd he say?
She said people need to be nicer and show love.
Agreed.
It's sad that we have to say this, but it's the world we live in, right?
Yep.
But if we aren't bringing awareness to it, then how's it going to change? 1000%. One word. Even hello. And just random person on the street you're walking by. Just, hi, how are you? Keep going out with your day. You didn't stay to find out how they were doing. But the fact that you said, hi, how are you? And they were noticed. And you took time out of your day to look their direction. So much better.
I can feed off that. I always, whenever we go to somewhere that doesn't have automatic doors, I always hold the door for the next person. It might seem like nothing, literally, but that could be something for someone. And every time I get a word, no matter what it is, it's a word at least from that person.
Mm.
It's the simple things. We could probably segue into the next topic if you want, Alyssa.
So what is your job title? You're a project manager?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm a senior field engineer. So it is a superintendent track.
Just somebody asked me. I just
Okay.
put it out there.
Yeah, you're putting it out there that I'm a boss of people, and now people are curious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who's this?
So the next topic, we were going to jump back into a little bit of the topic that we had last week with the trauma and responses to it. Just a quick future directions that they're going to be doing with that stuff, like PTSD and different types of research. I'm in a class right now where they talk about just future studies or people that they want to target with it. So some of the, sorry, I didn't write this stuff down. One of the biggest ones that stuck out to me is virtual reality treatment of PTSD, which I thought you guys would like because of the gaming world. Go ahead.
What do they say is like virtual reality? Is that like reliving the situation in virtual reality or putting you in a similar situation and see how you react to it, or?
So it would be up to the patient. So they would use like the VR state treatment. So they would be in like a virtual reality. So it would be kind of if the patient wants to go back to something similar to keep reliving it until it becomes normal to them, or they could.
I don't think it becomes normal. It just becomes less traumatic, and they learn how to handle it more.
Almost become numb to it, maybe.
Yeah, desensitization, or they could go the opposite route where they're just put into this VR where it's kind of like taking them into a
virtual reality.
Like a
different world. Yeah. Damn, can I get down, bro? You don't need all the attention, dude.
There is a study where they are using a drug. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it is a hallucinogen where they kind of give the person that they're treating an out-of-body experience.
Okay.
I wish I would remember. And it's, in a sense, kind of opening that curtain. So it gives them the chance. So this is more of like a spiritual journey. So kind of you people that do this study are more like religious, so they can kind of travel in the afterlife. So they open this curtain to they find out why they experience this stuff here on Earth. They open that curtain by doing this drug or afterlife out of body experience, and so when they come back to their body, they kind of have this extra understanding and they accept it. I think it was called ketamine, but that doesn't sound right either.
Ketamine. I think ketamine. Yeah, it is ketamine.
Oh, then that's
It
why
is
it's sticks.
ketamine because ketamine is a hallucinogen. It's huge in PTSD actually.
But then, okay, then
Yeah, yeah,
I do
yeah.
know what I'm talking about
Yep.
slightly.
Yeah. It alters their mind state. It really does.
Yeah, so apparently, like, ketamine gives them this out-of-body experience. They kind of put them in a sleep state. They give it to them. These people, like, travel to the afterlife. They come back, and they have this opening, like, curtain ceremony, and they come back, and they're like, I've seen these people, like, people that have passed on, tell them, like, these stories. They've seen whatever it may be. So it's, like, a very much, you have to be, like, a religious person for this to be your type of journey. Because if you don't believe in the afterlife, I feel like it would really mess with your head a lot
Right.
more than help you.
Yeah, they just opened a ketamine facility, we'll call it, locally here in Monroe. In For that to get approved and what they're doing, it has to be something huge because our
Yep.
we're literally the butthole between Detroit and Toledo, Ohio. So like drugs, they just funnel. So anything that is like that, and people are gonna like it. That has to be important for them to approve it around here.
So that's a big one that they're actually starting to do in Colorado as well too, because my counselor talked about it with me. And I don't know how I feel about getting all drugged up to do some outer body travel, and I am a spiritual person myself, so told her no thank you for now at least.
Yeah, right.
But that's a new one that they're, but like you're saying, it's very much so. There's only been a few people that have done it. All of them have seemed to come back with really good outcomes. So
Yeah, I haven't met anybody that's went through it or really heard any of the research. I just remember doing some of the glass work for his building. His wife had like a huge breakthrough with it.
yeah, I've read some of the research on it, and then obviously my counselor has talked to me about it, and it had good outcomes, but it is a very big, you have to be the right person to do it, and like you're saying, it has to be like a very much so like a high enough stage of PTSD or trauma for them to even like consider you to go through it, and it's super expensive because it's not covered by any type of
Insurance, right? That's another thing that I remember.
because it is still in like trial stages, so it's not even considered like a actual treatment yet. It is trial stages, so they don't know like any type of side effects or anything like that, so in a sense you're still the guinea pig for them doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the two big ones. The virtual reality, which I thought was cool based on like the video game
Right.
world. I don't know, again, how well it would work, leaving it up to the client or the person individually to decide. I feel like if they let the person kind of choose their own path, kind of like the happy path, they might get to a point where they don't want to come out of the virtual world.
Right. There was a. It was like they were sending people, and kind of the same thing as like a reality where they send them back to see that memory, and people need to come back, and eventually some people just never want to come out of it.
So I feel like you're playing with a little bit of fire there, but again, it's all about personal journeys. So like
Yeah.
something that might not work for me, like I'm saying, kind of both of these I don't think is like the right path for me to go down. might be perfect for somebody else. And I know Jerry, he was like shaking his head. Like,
Shot, Bucko.
No shot,
might not be
Bucko.
right for Jerry, but it might be right for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the two big ones that I know of that are like new researches for PTSD and trauma.
Sorry, guys, I'm yawning over here.
You're good.
You're good.
I'm boring you.
No, I'm
Nap
just
time?
exhausted.
When
I
he
guess-
called me, he's like, "We might have to play Rocket League, so
I could
can
stay up,
awake."
absolutely, dude. If I would have laid down, I laid down to like hug on Chantel for a minute in the bed, dude. And I was like, okay, let me get the hell up before I had ruined this whole night.
So that's what I got for you. You guys have any comments, questions, concerns?
No shot,
I don't
Bucko
have-
for Jer Bear.
I don't have a lot of experience with PTSD, so I'm not one to speak too much on it. So
I feel like the virtual reality one could be used for different types of treatments. The ketamine is right now only being used for PTSD. It might grow into more, but the virtual reality could probably be used for depression.
Oh God, I can sure that could hit a lot of vocals.
anxiety actually probably
Yeah.
a lot of.
Yeah.
I think just right now it's being talked about in my PTSD class. That's the only reason why I know about it. But I think the virtual reality one could be used for plenty of other. The PTSD for the ketamine is more focused just on that because it is for that, like, opening the curtain that you've been through this in this lifetime for a reason for that other thing. So the virtual reality, you could just kind of pair that with something else.
Absolutely. And Jerry, you say you don't have a whole lot of experience with PTSD, but you probably don't even realize in the situations that you're facing PTSD. You know,
Probably.
there's a lot of people that don't even realize they're living with it, right? Until it just happens to be traumatic one day for them, or it affects them and it changes their whole day. Usually people think it's depression before they think it's PTSD. I honestly think that because they feel sadness and not understanding why it's creating sadness, they fall into the depression and the PTSD realm with doctors. I don't think, but these last maybe 8 to 10 years, PTSD has been talked about this much. So,
I mean, I kind of understand, like, it's not just necessarily like a physical thing. It could be a relationship, a bad breakup, or, you know, being cheated on, or even a terrible argument with a good friend could lead to it. But, you know, so I guess I probably could, you know, a little bit of it, but I've been really good about just letting things go and accepting what's happened, I guess, for the closure of it. I've been able to get closure in a lot of things.
closure's
I
huge.
do- I do want to say, like, the trauma and PTSD is at least textbook. 70% of people experience trauma. So I would say 70% of people have trauma, and that is like its own type of thing. Only 20% of those 70 people actually develop PTSD.
One more time on that number.
20% of those 70 people actually develop the PTSD. So 70% of people have trauma, and that's its own set of, like, symptoms.
Right.
But only 20% of those are significant enough to be PTSD.
Makes sense.
So,
She's doing the math in her head.
yeah. It's not working very well.
Math ain't mathing right
So-
now.
So
Definitely
with
mathing
that
for me.
statement, I'll ask this question. You might not have the answer. Say something happens in your life that's happened before, but this is a trigger, and you didn't know it was going to be a trigger, but it triggers it, and it changes maybe not the next day, but it changes that day, or it changes an hour, or half a day or something. Is that considered a PTSD, or is that just considered dealing with the trauma of it?
You and Brecky
Repeat
are in
that
this.
again.
Him and Brecky are kind of on the same page with this one. It's like psychologically that no one knows until it's triggered, right?
Right. Yeah. Like maybe it doesn't affect your everyday life. This one thing that happened to you previously in your life from something that happened, but then it happens again, and it triggers you. What would that be classified as?
So that's a trauma response.
Okay.
So trauma responses and PTSD responses are different.
Okay.
But they're paired together because they can represent so closely.
Absolutely.
It's the frequency. So that's really the only difference, is like the frequency and the like magnitude of it.
Okay.
So a trauma response, technically speaking, we'll use like a car wreck, for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got in a really bad car accident. That's trauma. That is something like that. So then every time like you see a car wreck, and it triggers that then could create a trauma response, or if it's significant enough, it will then be classified as PT.
Yes.
Okay.
So
anything that's trauma could be PTSD. It's the frequency and like the magnitude of it.
Okay. By magnitude, do you mean like the way it affects you?
Mm-hmm.
yes,
So say loud noise goes off and you just get like a little startled. But say Ryan drops to the ground and he takes an hour to pull out of it, but you kind of, after about a minute, you're good to go. You're going back to your normal life, but he's on edge for like 2 hours after he gets back off the ground. That's the difference between a trauma response and his response to his PTSD.
Okay. Makes sense.
that one hits home. That one's a real one for me. Like
I remember you talking about it, that's why I used it.
yeah, it happened.
So like
that one still gets me. Like that one's still so vivid in my head for that moment when that lightning struck that tower. Like it sent me down a nasty ass rabbit hole. And it took another veteran to get me off that floor and be like, "Hey, I got you," because he understood.
Ooh.
Blur.
There you go.
Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, next to revision. Okay.
So it breaks down like trauma.
That's a
PTSD.
lot of pages. Yeah,
and has every single mental health disorder in here, breaking it down to tobacco use.
So does that come like, what is it, the one that's on a tape or a CD? Does it come in that?
An audiobook?
Yeah, I need an audiobook. That thing, yeah, because this guy is not reading.
But it breaks it down to like there's an actual whole section just for trauma.
Right.
And it has trauma, PT, and then like all of them are together, and there's those slight differences between them that actually make you be able to just diagnose and distinguish between them. So they're very similar, but you have to be able to be like, well, this person is this like level.
Because to the blind eye, I mean, that's why I'm glad I asked, because very clearly to me it could have been just the same thing, but the way you explained it was very perfect, actually.
Yeah.
And I always thought they were the same too until taking these classes. And I had my class last semester where I did learn how to diagnose, and I had a case study where it was somebody who had trauma, and I diagnosed them with PTSD, and they had to walk through and tell me like why it was different. But I had to use this book, and it has all the mental health disorders in it.
As we have another veteran here in the chat, right? Damaging Doc, Special Forces veteran, Army. He goes, I guess I would be very low on the PTSD scale, but definitely had response to stuff, usually unknown as to what triggers it, right? And half the time we don't know what triggers it till it keeps coming up, right? And when you relive it with the severity of it and what
Mhm.
what it does to you is when it gets classified from a response to PTSD. So
Mm-hmm.
everything's got
So,
triggers, right? Love, sadness, happiness, like everything has its triggers.
mm-hmm.
It's just where they're getting
So yeah,
classified.
even with that, they just tell, like with me, with mine, they said take notes, and it's gonna always change, but you can start to learn kind of how they intertwine with each other. And I don't want to say avoid it, but you can learn what triggers you the most and what is kind of just working with it to make that bigger trigger, I guess, worse.
Right. So we have here one time I was literally walking to get food, no noises, no random smells, no sounds, etc. Shit just hit me for about 30 seconds, right? I went to the psych about it and blew it off, right? So that to me, Doc, is a PTSD moment, right? Because PTSD doesn't always need that trigger or that response because it actually is always there, right?
Yeah, with that, did you have like a kind of snow globe effect, kind of like around you?
But yeah, that's and that's also that's where PTSD and depression can go hand in hand, and also because depression can literally just take your whole day and have no reason
Mhm.
rhyme why. And
Becky, to answer your question,
oh,
um, none of us can actually answer that. But what they were talking about earlier, like that virtual reality thing, having those triggers and having them, I don't want to say getting used to them, but getting used to them essentially is how you take those triggers
desensitizing.
away. Yeah,
Alyssa,
you
is it
kind of go numb to it.
desensitizing?
I don't know what the question is. I can't see your
Uh
chat,
oh,
But
so.
see when
okay.
you but see when you know what triggers you, how can you control it? Is what she said. So how can you control what you know triggers you, but it still happens?
We'll be right
With
with you,
that,
Doc,
you
on that one.
just truly you never can control a trauma, like a trauma response or a PTSD response. You, in your mind, are able to kind of re-react to
Counter
it.
counter it.
Yeah. Um, so, I mean, doesn't sound very good, but when you're in that virtual reality and you keep rewatching it, when they say desensitized to it, you're kind of teaching your mind how to react quicker to it to bring yourself out of it. So, and you're saying desensitized, but your brain is. So, when you go into a trauma response, this is your brain, your fight or flight response, and there's more than fight or flight, but we're going to say that is your amygdala. So, it's in here. So, when you go into a fight or flight or a trauma response, you flip your lid. So, your amygdala cuts off all access to your frontal lobe. So, you're not really in charge of your brain or your body at that point because your frontal lobe makes all rational decisions. So when you're desensitizing yourself, you're basically training your brain to close that lid quicker, to be able to make those rational thoughts quicker. So your amygdala takes over, your body goes into fight or flight, you flip your lid. The longer you're flipping your lid, the less like control you really have. So the quicker you learn to close that, the quicker you kind of come out of that trauma response.
Okay, that makes sense, Bricky. All right, and you asked Doc if it was like a snow globe effect, right? So he said no. What happened was I had a mental breakout of my body thing, where I was not me. I was the guy who was killed in the truck with us. I felt, smelled, heard everything from what I have assumed his perspective was. Wow. Okay.
That's a lot.
So
That's I don't even know how to classify that one. That's like a that was for how long did you say that last? That was for like a 30-second thing.
It's a long time.
It can feel like an eternity, honestly.
Hmm.
30 seconds in that moment.
So again, I'm still in school, so don't like, this is just stuff that I've learned and then my personal experience. From what I've been told by my counselor and what I'm learning, that was a state of dissociation. It's kind of like another term of like kind of outer body experience. There's no real like terminology to explain what happened, and that's why they call it dissociation. You kind of just poof, leave your body, come back. But again, that's all based on your beliefs, because that is another like spiritual belief. So not that that really helps you much, but that's kind of what I've been told in my experience.
Yeah, I honestly, that's where she's going to school to learn all this stuff. So like, that's where we're gonna be leaning on Alyssa a lot more in situations like that. Because to me, that I wouldn't want to live that. And I wouldn't know how to respond to it. Just know that if you ever go through it and you just need somebody right away, I myself am here. They are here. If you need to seek actual medical attention, please do so.
Yep. I mean, we're always here to talk to you about it, but like just kind of a quick response to kind of help you with that. Like I said, just from my experience and what I've been told and have read, it just sounds like dissociation.
I don't know.
So,
It's a psychosis thing, right? It's strictly in your psycho about that. So
it kind of sounds like you are
Man.
taking some of the blame for it, maybe.
are you? I wouldn't say that he's taking some of the blame. I think more is I know how I feel when it comes to certain things. Like I don't like to celebrate my birthday certain because some of my boys didn't make it back, or I feel guilty that they're not here with us to be able to celebrate those things. So I can't speak for on behalf of that or what happened, but I know if it was me for like certain situations, I feel guilty. And it's not that I did anything wrong or it was my fault, or it's just I feel like they
Yeah,
should be
survivor's
here. Yeah. So you called it survivor's doubt?
Guilt.
Guilt.
Survivor's
Oh,
guilt.
okay. Survivor's guilt. There you go. So like, and my wife never understood it. Like I'm not big on birthdays. I'm not big into that stuff. It's just because there's so many of them that I would love to share my birthday with that are not here to share it with them or and celebrate theirs with them. So it's just one of those things. Try to make hers as special as possible.
Brecky came back in chat. So going to be honest, I got physically and mentally abused for 5 years from two guys right after one another from 18 to 23. But for me now, like when someone raises their voice or anything, I don't go into hiding. I lash out only out of fear. How do I control that? I don't have an answer for that. I think, Brecky, my best advice for you is with this help you're getting coming up, definitely bring this stuff up.
Be honest.
Be 100% honest like you're doing right now. I don't think that you're not going to be, because you're being honest with us, and it sounds like you're ready for change. You're ready to be happy. So
That's one
I
thing.
think that you're heading in the right direction.
Gotta be
Mhm.
honest.
Yeah.
If you're not honest, you sell yourself short on getting the help you need.
Yep. I think that you're moving definitely in the right direction with wanting to be happy, with wanting to take care of this stuff. That's a huge step. Like, a lot
Gotta
of the
want to do
stuff
it for
we've talked
yourself.
about today is people can't take that first step, and you're doing it. So good for you.
Yep, I agree with Jerry and Ryan. Also, don't look at the lashing out. I mean, you're doing it as a protection thing for you. Obviously, you're going to get that help to kind of stop it. Look at different ways of how else can you protect yourself besides the lashing out, because that's what it is. It's your body's going into a response of protect me. So maybe rewiring that to the yelling is not really a constructive way of protecting myself, so how else can I?
Right. Doc said wife called. I missed almost all of that. Um,
Yeah. It was a lot, Doc.
it was a lot. So we'll go back to what Lissa said. What was that? You said sheesh.
The dissociation.
Dissociation. Yes, that one. So it was that. We have a definition on that. I sure in the hell am not Webster. So.
So yeah, I said like, don't hold me to it because I'm not through school yet, but it sounds like dissociation. What it is essentially like it's a spiritual thing. So it's another, they say it because there's not proven fact on it, but dissociation is kind of like an outer body experience, and you have to be able to bring yourself back. So when you experience something like that, you're like leaving your body and experiencing something, and that's why you're able to see like through a different type of lens or eyes.
And then I went on to say about the survivor's guilt. So it could be anything with that. For you're feeling guilty that you're breathing and we lost that person, or you lost that person, and might have asked yourself why couldn't it have been me. But don't ever. Yeah, it only happened once. It never happened again. He said, just crazy, right? How something like that can be just randomly happen. What else do we got? We got anything else, guys?
Just Punishers. Been angry for years, over 30 years, and only just got the right help. I still struggle some days, hitting everyone, even my own family, and sometimes don't know why and break down. He also said I now do meditation and it helps massively. Clear my mind of all the thoughts.
Speaking of meditation, I talked to Alyssa about this a little bit ago. I brought up she was unable to actually be at the gym a long time ago, and I said maybe something like yoga or meditation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Come to find out, this new friend that I met, right, introduced me to this Dan Harris guy. He does meditation, and he swears by it. And he sent me this app. It is called 10%, right? And it gives you like this little, we'll call it an outline that you can go through in a program, like that you can go through, and it helps you step up into these situations. That helps relieve stress. It helps teach you to put yourself first, or like actually self-care, right? It teaches self-care, or even 5 minutes of deep breathing away from everything to let your mind just flush itself free for a minute to reset and then go back in. So right, and then we got people that like Doc says my old medic swears by it. Yes, so meditation, I'm gonna start getting into it myself, as just finding out, so if it helps me and I can help somebody else, just like Dan did for me. He brought it to my attention. He swears by it. He said it's helped him huge, right? So it's something that I'm gonna try, so therefore I can share my experience with you guys. But again, everybody's experience is different, right? Not every one thing is gonna work for everybody. So gotta find out for yourself. You guys, yeah, that Dan Harris, that's what his name is, Dan Harris. He does a podcast also. Our minds are very powerful. Listen, guys, I've said this and I'll say it time and time again. Your mind will shut you down. It will physically cripple you. And fragile. Absolutely, Doc. You will become physically crippled if you do not take care of your mental. If you're in a bad mental state, you can literally be stuck. I've been there. I've been in my bed for weeks. I didn't want to see nobody, didn't want to talk to nobody, didn't want nothing. I had a breakdown at 40 years old. Hey, mental has no age limit. It attacks everybody. Good, bad. It affects everybody. No, there's no age requirement or anything in it. As you read those numbers, 74 to, or 75 to 84. Still a lot of suicide happening, right? Yep. So those numbers, age isn't nothing in this situation. It's everybody's affected. There's such good things as good mental health too, guys. It's not all bad. So don't always think everything we're saying is gonna be bad or just like that, but we're here to try to shed light and awareness on the situation that we're having in daily lives right now, and that's suicide is affected all of us, and mental health has affected all of us. And the more people we can bring into our circle and raise awareness for, maybe you go out and you help somebody else out, and it just continues to raise awareness and break the stigma. So that's really what we're here for.
Yep.
I used alcohol. Alcohol is very, very common. Drugs, very common. Everybody has their way of dealing with them. It's just sometimes they don't work out in everybody's benefit, or they work out different ways for everybody else. Yeah, that's what kind of upset. And blew me off and said it was nothing. See, yeah, that's not good. That's, guys, there's something I said a couple weeks ago, right? Go get a second and a third opinion, because you might not like that doctor, that psychiatrist, or anybody that you see. Don't be scared to go somewhere else. And if you're not feeling comfortable opening up to them and actually being yourself and breaking out everything you need to, I think it's time to see somebody else. And then you're going to finally, hopefully one day, find that doctor. It just brings you out of everything and helps you. Hell, it might not even be a doctor. Who knows? Yeah. Didn't have a choice. Yeah. Do you guys have anything else? Any more numbers, Alyssa? Statistics? Anything? Jeer Bear?
Nope.
All right, guys. We're not gonna shut the stream, guys. I'm just doing this. I'm gonna end the podcast so we can have it for the recording. All right. But guys, we're gonna leave the chat open for questions and everything, so we can keep talking to you guys after this. Okay. So give us a couple minutes to shut this down, then we'll go continue with questions. All right. You guys are good, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
All right. On behalf of Fly High Wi-Fi, guys, we just want to say thank you for being here. Appreciate your guys' time. We're going to continue to do these on every other Friday for now, until hopefully we can continue on and get them going every Friday or a couple times a week or whatever. But again, Fridays, podcast, new subjects. We'll be opening always the chat. Love for you guys to keep spreading the word, keep opening it up, and keep bringing your questions and concerns with us, so we can keep building this and getting farther and more experience with everything that's going on. And on with that, I want to say have a great night, and thank you.
Bye.
Bye.